What are some things that entrepreneurs can do to empower their executive assistants to really serve them well? Like, what are some things that you've heard around the water cooler, so to speak, that are mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they bring on an executive assistant? What would you say some of those are? And we'll just let people imagine whether I've made these mistakes or not.
Is it about time to bring her on?
It is.
Yeah.
After I use the restroom.
I also got to do the same.
All right.
I got to do the same.
Don't go anywhere.
And then we'll bring you on.
All right.
Woo!
All right. So, world, meet Alice.
Alice!
Hey, Alice. Welcome to the podcast as a guest.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Change of scenario.
Whether you're on or not, we say bye, Alice, nearly every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are we going to walk through the daily sync right now, or do you got some questions you want to ask?
Well, why don't we just kick it off? And Alice, if you'll share your screen, and let's just go through what we go through every morning.
Sweet. So this is the daily sync.
This is the daily sync.
Okay, cool.
It takes about 10, maybe 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. While you're doing that, Alice, but Bo, I'm going to ask you something that maybe this is something Alice actually needs to answer. But like, I see as you're getting systems in place, the generating of operating procedure and, getting all that stuff down and good. At some point, those things are in place. So I'm wondering, Alice has the same number of hours that we do in a day. This wasn't my question, but this is a new question. How is Alice, how are you able to get so much done? Number one. But number two, I mean, surely there's got to be days where there's not much to be done that day, or you're waiting on something. And thinking about that, like for me and being an actor, if we wanted to get an executive assistant, we got system and we got these times where it's like, we're working then. But then all of a sudden I got an audition or I get offered a role and it's like, okay, we got to put all this on hold. I'm going to set for 3 days. I'm just curious, like what happens in that where it's like, there's really nothing to do for a few days, or is there just always something to do? You know what I mean?
Well, there's always something to do, but there are a handful of sort of ongoing tasks that aren't necessarily urgent or time specific. And when she has downtime, she can just sort of grab that stuff and work on it. And so maybe she goes to LoopNet and makes sure that all our listings are up to date. Mm-hmm. Or, here's another thing that she does that I forgot to mention.
Yeah.
We report to all our listing clients once a month on all the activity that's on their listing. So anytime we have a conversation with a prospect or somebody looking at space or interested in a building, or anytime we give a tour or whatever, we catalog that in our database. And then she goes in once a month, pulls the reports, sends them to Todd or whoever the agent is, and then we send them to the client. So the client always knows what's going on with their listing. Mm-hmm. And so that's awesome that she does that. Makes it really, really easy on the rest of us. I forgot about that thing. But there are certain, just big projects that aren't time specific, aren't urgent. And when she's got downtime, she can grab that stuff and just continue to work on it.
Yeah.
But my guess is, well, actually, I don't have a clue how much bandwidth of hers that we've eaten up at this point. Mm-hmm. But we'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to add to what Bo said, there's this thing that we call with superpowers the evergreen projects or tasks. So these are the tasks that I do when there isn't a task that was delegated to me by Bo. For example, these are the things that just simply going through his email, his inbox cleaning, updating templates that we have. Those are the things that I do when there isn't an active task or active project that I'm working on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. Evergreen projects.
Evergreen projects. That's what we name it.
Okay, cool. Cool. All right. It looks like we're working here.
Mm-hmm. We're ready to go.
Let's do the
Alice, what's the day look like?
All right. So today is buffer day. It's Tuesday, 5th of December. And of course, the first thing that I always ask you, and I'm sure you're aware of and already know the answer to, is have you gone to the gym? Have you done any workouts yesterday or maybe this morning?
I did, in fact, this morning. My daughter and I, Maddie, went to the gym, and she got about 45 minutes of getting shots up. And it wasn't much of a workout for me, but I was running around, rebounding, and got my heart rate up a little bit. So not the rigorous workout that I would always intend when it says we went to the gym. But yes, you can check that off.
All right. And then we have the weather forecast here, a widget that tells us it's much colder than it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward with updates on your calendar. So the first that we had is the 9:30 a.m. haircut appointment. And then the first meeting and the only meeting for today was the 11:30 a.m. Weekly team meeting, and then blocked off 2 hours for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And that I categorized as your focus time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got the term from your deep work 4:30. I've blocked that off as your shutdown and travel time to prepare for the game at Hancock County. And that'll be at 6 p.m.
So Maddie has a game tonight at 6. And I know that at 4:30, I'm going to start shutting down work, go home, and then we've got time to travel to the game. That's all part of my schedule.
And that is blocked on your calendar so that no other meetings or calendar invites will pop up there. And then we have here updates on your to-do list. So I've already removed those that have been checked off from yesterday. And other things here, I believe is already in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, we have your top 50 updates. And so, as mentioned earlier, we've had Timmy first for December.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already removed your name from here because that has passed.
Fair enough.
But
fair enough.
remaining days, we have them here.
Yep. And so we'll just talk about, hey, what do we want to do for those things? And she'll start generating lists of ideas, and she'll go online and say, she'll send me an email that has like maybe 5 or 6 different gift options with a picture, how much it costs, etc. And then it helps focus my thinking, and then I make a decision, and she executes.
That's great.
Yep.
Yeah, Dad's next.
Mm-hmm. And look, this basically completes our sync. At this point, she'll ask me, hey, is there anything else I need to be working on? And a lot of times there might be, hey, I want you to reach out to this person, try to schedule this or whatever. But this is about how long she takes me through the day and what it looks like.
Yeah.
We'll go through the to-dos. If I've completed some stuff from the day before, I'll check it off. Now, Alice, let's also give him a little bit of feel for like what the Barron Commercial Group database in Notion looks like.
Of course. Let me open that up.
As she's pulling that up, you say on Mondays, you all go through the next 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. So we just showed you what it looks like on Tuesday through Friday. Here's what the day looks like.
Right.
On Monday, she takes me through the entire week and the following week. So
Yeah.
it gives more of a forward-looking view at the beginning of the week. I kind of have a feel for what's the next 2 weeks look like.
Yeah. So if
Which
the
is
daily
very
sync takes around like 10 minutes, right? So on average, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the one on Monday would, how much?
Maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe 25, but
Yeah.
not long.
Okay.
So here's the proposal process that we have. And let's just drop down there to the process outline. So if she clicks into this is the outline of what we go through when we're trying to win a new listing.
Okay.
Or get hired. It's not always a listing, but that's it all broken out. If you go to that Loom video section, Alice, this is where I've created Loom videos on how I want all this stuff done. So when Alice was learning how to do these things for us, I would create these little Loom videos of me demonstrating it all. So like she creates our marketing stuff through Build Out. I had to show her how to do that.
Right.
And so instead of like doing it live and then probably maybe having to do it again until she really learns it and stuff, I just create these little videos and then they're categorized and they're in the system.
Yeah.
So let's say something happens to Alice, God forbid.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever leave us, Alice. Okay? Never.
There's a line from the show where, because Tara is the executive assistant to the lead.
Yeah,
Where he's like,
that's right.
he's like, don't you ever go. You are attached to me with an umbilical cord of piano wire. Do not ever leave. No.
But if Alice were to call me up and say, hey, look, 3 months from here, I'm going to take a job and, do something else. We've got a catalog of how to do everything. I don't have to recreate the wheel.
Yeah, sure.
And that's,
Yeah. It
it's a
seems
great
like the
comfort.
only job she'd leave would be to take your job.
she could probably do it.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And so this just gives you a little bit of a feel for all our processes are in Notion with training videos for everything, with process outlines, with, all those worksheets I was mentioning.
Right.
We just go in like if, go to 119 East 2nd Street under completed. This has already been completed and moved on. But if you scroll down to that worksheet section and open that up, and you click open there. If we wanted to create an exclusive listing, like Todd filled that out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he filled out. And she took it and created the exclusive right to lease agreement.
Wow.
Sent it to us. And then, matter of fact, if you scroll down, it's probably at the bottom. Unless she just emailed. Yeah, you must have just emailed this one.
Yeah.
I put it here.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's right there. And so that's what she created. We grab it, send it to the client, everybody signs, and we're hired on paper and we're off to the races.
Yeah. So, Alice, once you get that information from Todd in this example, how long would you say that it takes you to get that lease agreement?
Well, this is this is actually a listing as opposed to a lease, but yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just I take about an hour max, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And sometimes it's a lot faster.
Yeah.
Incredible. But that's an hour or 30 minutes or whatever that we're not spending.
Right. Yeah.
And man,
yeah.
It's great. And now click the process outline. So it's a checklist. And as we complete that stuff out, whoever's responsibility it is, and everybody knows what their role is and who does what, they just check it out, check it off as it goes along.
Wow.
And then once it's done and we've been hired, so this process here takes us from opportunity to getting hired. Mm-hmm. Once we get hired, now there's a whole nother checklist. And that's the next part of the database, has its own checklist, create the marketing, put the signs up, email blasts, all the ways we market the property. She creates the targeted prospect list on who might be the tenant or the buyer. Mm-hmm. And we just start working through that checklist. So it's a predetermined system, and we don't have to recreate the wheel every time.
Sure.
And because everybody knows their roles, and everybody can go on at any point and see what's been done and what's not done, it just makes us very efficient. And we don't have to waste all this mental bandwidth figuring out what to do next.
Right.
We just execute. And if we're not getting the results that we want, then we tweak the system and we try to improve it. But man, this makes us fast, effective. There's not a lot of stepping on each other's toes. It's just really nice teamwork because, frankly, Alice has built it all into Notion.
Right. Alice, were you trained on Notion via SUPERPOWERS, or did you know Notion when you I guess signed up?
Yeah, so when I joined SUPERPOWERS, Notion was a relatively new application for me. So I also learned this with SUPERPOWERS.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And Alice, if you'd stop sharing our secret system to the world now.
I was going to say, man, how
No, look.
I would just love to be your competitor right now.
Look, most most people in the industry do the same things. Okay. The way they do them is different, and their team looks different, and who does what might be different. But like, I wasn't giving anybody a magic formula right there, or the secret ingredients to Coca-Cola, or there wasn't anything super proprietary. My guess is every broker on the planet who's watching the video of this probably paid a whole lot of attention to that, and probably thought, "Oh, that's a good idea," or "We do that," or but it's nothing there is going to hurt our business if everybody on the planet knows how we do those things. That's it's not a big deal.
Yeah, cool. Alice, is Bo your first when it comes to being a executive assistant?
So when it comes to being an executive virtual assistant, yes, Bo is my first entrepreneur.
Gotcha. And you've worked as an executive assistant before?
I have worked as an admin assistant before, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
But not directly to an executive.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
Now, you also, and I don't know if you still do this, but didn't you teach English?
Yes. So my first job out of university was actually as an English tutor. And I've done that for quite a few years, yeah. Which explains why what Bo has said earlier.
Right.
But he's just praising me too much.
Oh, no.
It's
Now, look, what amount of people in the Philippines speak English as well as you? Like, are you an exception, or is that pretty normal?
I don't know if it's okay for me to say this, but when I was in elementary, I studied in an international school, which explains, I think, why early in my childhood, my English skills or English as a second language skills were honed. So I think I'm more of the in the population who can speak more English. But I think most people, because in schools we also use English as a second language, so most Filipinos can speak English and can understand English well.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay.
That answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. My best friend growing up was Filipino, Andy Butler. Do you remember him? Yeah, Andy Butler. Yeah. He's my best friend. He was the first person I started making sketch comedy videos with.
Really?
Yeah. It's called Meander Around the Room.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yep. I wonder if I could find those. I loved Andy. I wonder where he is at. He always had Jinko jeans. I was jealous of those. You remember Jinkos in the 90s? The big baggy jeans? Like, they're just... Anyway. Yeah, I was always jealous of those. You've got some questions for Alice as far as... Well, I do too.
Well, Alice, my buddy Reed sent this email to us, and he wants to know if you have a sister. Now, I know the answer to this, but I thought I'd actually ask it,
Yeah, so to answer the question, I do have sisters, in fact, too. So yeah, I do have sisters.
All right. Well, there you go, Reed. Alice has sisters.
Answer the question, yes.
Here's my question, okay? And I think this falls in line with what you want to know as well, which is, what is it that you can do that will allow you, Alice, to help you, Bo, better, right? What are those things? And I think, as I would word it with my question is, if myself personally, but anybody that's interested in getting a virtual assistant, what kind of information and organization would I have to have walking in or coming in? And I think you kind of answered that because Superpowers really helps to ask the questions and get that going. But yeah, from the executive assistant point of view, what are the things that really help you do help for you?
What a jacked up question.
Oh my goodness. English is my first language. But yeah, that was understandable, right?
All right. Well, let me restate the
Thank
question and make it a little bit more general.
Thank you.
What are some things that entrepreneurs can do to empower their executive assistants to really serve them well? Like what are like, and whether I've made these mistakes or not, I'm sure I know that, like, you know, the executive assistants in Superpowers have kind of a Slack channel, and that you guys can ask questions of each other and help each other out. But like, what are some things that you've heard around the water cooler, so to speak, that are mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they bring on an executive assistant? What would you say some of those are? And we'll just let people imagine whether I've made these mistakes or not.
Yep. Okay. So generally speaking, mistakes that we as executive assistants would really not be happy with, that our entrepreneurs make, is if we manage their calendar, is so generally if the executive assistant is the one that's in charge of the calendar, we don't want our entrepreneurs touching them, because then it messes up with how we plan the week, we plan the day, we plan the month to be. And so if our entrepreneur just goes in there and schedules something that we did not plan it to be, then that just messes the whole, not really the whole, but maybe what we had planned. And so that is one general mistakes, and it's not just limited, I think, to the EAs in Superpowers, but I've also heard from a lot of other EAs. And then another thing is I just lost that thought. But I think, that's one of the most common mistakes. Another thing is when a task has been delegated to an EA from their entrepreneur, and then suddenly the entrepreneur is doing the task that he or she just delegated to their EA. And so the EA is like, okay, you've delegated this to me, then why are you doing it? And so there's two people doing one task, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's two. And I think those are the two that are most common and most general to all EAs.
That makes sense.
I am guilty of the first one, but not very often, I don't think.
That laugh was like, more often than you think. That's what I heard.
That's what I took from that laugh as well.
Yeah.
Well, but I do appreciate a heads up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think we were going to do this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We had this on the calendar, this episode, this recording session.
Yeah.
Yesterday. I talked to you and I was like, let's move it to Tuesday.
Yeah.
What we're doing now. And then I changed it on the calendar. Myself.
Oh.
And I don't know if I gave you a heads up about that or not. But I would say most of the time I try to stay out of my calendar.
Yeah.
Everything works better if I stay out of my calendar.
Yeah. And you'll get there. You'll get there, Bo.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe you will. Yeah.
I think for Christmas, she might order me like an electrical shock that she can control from the Philippines. And every time I go to touch my calendar, she can just zap me.
It's like on South Park every time they curse. Cool. I like the way you frame that. Like, what are the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs will make when working with an executive assistant? Yeah. The other thing too is, like, it seems like there's a lot, like, in order to be an executive assistant, you've just got to learn things quickly, whether it's a system or, like, at some point I want to make a Loom video to show you the process of what I go through to post these shorts on social media. Right.
Yeah.
And so I just imagine that that's a quality you've got to have to be a good executive assistant, is be able to take it and then learn and then know how to do it. Right.
Yep.
Is there a point where entrepreneurs can expect too much, or delegate too much, or ask too much of an executive assistant when it comes to learning, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking in my head right now specifically of, like, we're looking for an editor for this. So I wouldn't want to be like, oh, let's hire an executive assistant and then teach them to edit, if that makes sense, right? We want to go hire an editor, somebody who knows how to do this.
Yep.
Like, that's what I'm thinking. That might be too much to ask somebody to learn. That's kind of a big skill, but also one that could quickly be learned depending on who you are. So, Bo, can you rephrase my question in a succinct sentence?
Sure. Is it possible, and what might be some of the guardrails for when an entrepreneur is asking too much of their executive assistant? For instance, we need some graphic design work right now. Well, I don't think that's in your wheelhouse, though maybe it is. I just sort of assumed that it isn't. And so it would make sense for me to ask her to maybe find a graphic design person,
Right.
like help me locate that person to do the work. But I wouldn't dump that on you and say, good luck. However, she can work Canva pretty well. And so there are some things that I've had her do that are simple
Sure.
on Canva, creating some things. But yeah, could you speak to that, Alice?
Yeah. So when a project or a task that my entrepreneur wants me to handle that is beyond my skill set, so of course every EA is always open to learning something. And so if we get into that task, we try to learn it, and it's just not something that our skill set can do. It's just not, it's just we just cannot cover what the project or what the task requires. Then of course it'll be something that an EA should communicate to his or her entrepreneur and just be open about it, and not just try to, because your entrepreneur has expected you to do this and you said yes. But if you can't really do it with all that you can, just be open to saying it. And so I think open communication between an executive assistant and his or her entrepreneur is very important, so that, because we know that when delegation happens, we know that expectations have to be met. And so if that expectation hasn't been met because of the closed communication, no communication, then of course we fail to achieve the project, we fail to complete the task. And so it's just with the between the executive assistant and his or her entrepreneur communicating on how to complete this task. And so, just like what you said, maybe delegating to someone else, looking for a person with the skill set to complete this task or this project.
Yeah. Great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know if I'm going to give her something new, if it has to do with technology or, it's sort of the same steps every time. Like, no doubt, I know I can create a Loom video, show her how to do it, and she can execute. Like, she can do that all day long. Mm-hmm. If I were going to give her something new to do that required like a creative skill that I'm not sure she may possess or not, like as the entrepreneur, it would really behoove me to have that conversation with her. Like, look, is this in your wheelhouse? Is this part of your skill set? And if it's not, like, I don't want to make some assumptions that she can do graphic design work or edit a video, or I don't know that she can do those things. If I were going to ask her to do that kind of stuff, I should have a conversation with her before, like, hey, do you have this kind of experience in your background?
Yeah.
So, as opposed to just making an assumption that she'll be able to do whatever I ask her to do.
Right.
And then,
Yeah.
And if I haven't created the kind of space in our working relationship for her to be able to say, look, this probably isn't the best idea for me to do this. If she doesn't feel like it's safe for her to communicate that back to me, well, that's on me too.
Right.
For not creating that kind of working relationship. So that's,
because I'm thinking of it, all this makes total sense to me. That answer was just so clear and so good. It makes sense when it comes to like a skill set, right? That especially a creative one. But like thinking about our podcast and wanting to move into 2024 and really think about reaching out to sponsors and, beginning to get monetized and ways to do that, when we get an editor, I know that I've got more time to do more research on that end. And so specifically for like, hey, let's find out what it takes, what the emails look like, or the best ways to find a good sponsor and reach out to them. I feel like that really falls on me to it's just something I want to familiarize myself with more, as my social media following is humongous now, But, I can see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can see like, as a task for Alice, for example, to be like, hey, can you do a little bit of research in this area? And then when we have our meeting next time, come in and let's talk through that. Right. That seems like something that would be good for.
Oh yeah.
Something. Yeah. When it comes to like research or figuring something out in that.
Another example of something that is in your future, Alice, if I've told you this or not, is, as Brad and I are working on creating this investment fund, one of the things we're going to be doing is analyzing markets where we find great sponsors who have opportunities that we might want to invest in their deals. So that market analysis that we're going to do, these different big markets where I don't live and I just don't know, like I go and pull that information and we take it to a very specific analysis process. And this is what we teach in 102, and we'll be doing that. We're pulling specific research numbers. We're pulling demographic data. We're putting all this, and then we're analyzing that as part of the process. Every bit of that, she'll be able to go and grab for me, put it in the format that I want. And if it just stops there, she'll have saved me a ton of time. And then I can take the data and do the analysis. My guess is that I'll be able to turn her into an analyst and actually do some of that analysis and get me way further faster.
Right.
And
because a lot of that is just data based.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And like over the last 10 months, she's proven to me over and over and over again that I can give her fairly complex systems and she executes them flawlessly. So this one has some complexity, but like, look.
You're incredible.
I turned my then 19-year-old son into an analyst while he interned with me for a summer. So I've seen somebody that has little experience in the industry be able to do a very specific set of tasks and analyze property. We were able to make him a pretty dang good analyst over the course of a summer. I've got no doubt that Alice can do the same thing, and it's not that time consuming. So it's
right.
Yeah, and if she ever leaves me, that'll be a skill set that could be real beneficial to her into the future. I mean, that makes her even more marketable. So it'd be good for her as well, though she won't, and she'll never need it. Hopefully. Maybe I shouldn't turn you into an analyst, Alice.
Go fly.
Yes. Let me just mention one other thing, and then whatever questions you have, and then we can, Alice, let you get back to your day or your evening as it is. Because you're already into Wednesday, right? Like, how's Wednesday starting up? Is it going to be a good day?
Yes. It's already Wednesday early morning.
Yeah. And see, we're stuck into Tuesday, so I'll let you get back to Wednesday. Here's the one thing I would encourage everybody to do as the entrepreneur who's going to bring on an executive assistant is I started from a place of trust with Alice. Right? I knew and trusted the founder of the company. That was reinforced by the process that they went through with me, which made me believe that they had vetted Alice as well. And they talked about how they vetted her, and then from the jump, I gave her access to my passwords and my credit cards, so she could do a lot of these things for me. It would have been a much slower process of getting the benefits from our working relationship if I hadn't started at that place. if I would have had to make her earn my trust over time before
Sure.
I would have turned those things over. So I would just encourage anybody who's looking to bring on an executive assistant to trust the vetting process and start from a place of trust. She's proven over and over and over again that I can absolutely trust her. Like she could ruin me.
Mm-hmm.
She could. She's got all my passwords. She's got all my credit cards. If she wanted to, she could destroy me, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. I decided to start from a place of trust with her, and she's proven that decision right over and over and over again for 10 months. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be harder for some people than others to do that. But man, just, take the win of adding an executive assistant to your team and allow that person to do what they're there to do.
Right.
And empower them to do it with your trust and get all that stuff off your plate. Get that time back so that you can spend more time with the people you care about most, and you can spend the rest of that time doing things that are much more valuable to your business than all the things you just gave up and handed to the executive assistant.
Yeah.
Like that's the way to go with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alice, is there anything that you would say to entrepreneurs that want to take this step but are hesitant to, or entrepreneurs that might have taken the step and you've heard from another executive assistant that they're, it's really difficult right now to work with them, without getting but generally, would there be something that you would say to those entrepreneurs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I really like what Bo has said about the trust, because between entrepreneurs and executive assistants, I think trust is one of the biggest factors that could play how the relationship between an entrepreneur and an executive assistant could go. And it affects all of what the executive assistant can do for the entrepreneur. For example, giving passwords, or even so as to giving access to inbox, because I've heard of entrepreneurs who don't do that. And, inbox is one of the biggest sources of communication, and which also takes too much of the time of entrepreneurs. So if an entrepreneur wants to have an executive assistant to help them gain more freedom from their business, gain more time to spend with their family, but they don't have the trust to delegate those stuff to their executive assistant, then I think it's just pointless to have an executive assistant at that point if they don't trust their executive assistants to, in delegating those tasks and everything. And another thing is I would tell them to just trust the process. I understand that there are people who don't really give trust or gain trust right off the bat, and I do understand that. But I believe it's also something that EAs and entrepreneurs alike can work on as they go through the process, as they go or work through their relationship or work through their partnership. And so, trust the process and trust that, their executive assistant can do it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
Alice, do you have any final thoughts? Anything that we haven't mentioned that you thought of?
I think what we've mentioned for this episode is good. It's good. And I hope it'll really help those entrepreneurs, executive assistants alike.
Yeah, I think it will. And a big part of that is for you agreeing to come on. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Alice, thanks for doing this. And thanks for being on the team.
Me.
Like, you really are wonderful.
Yeah.
Great blessing to us.
Thank you. And I appreciate it too.
All right. There we are.
Okay.
There we are. Great.
Well,
love you, brother.
Love you too.
Bye, Alice.
Bye, Alice.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Commercially Speaking. Bo and I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. We are taking a couple weeks off for the holiday season, and we wish you all the best. When we come back in 2024, please let us know in the comments what you want more of. We want to know what you think. What have you liked? What don't you like so much as we're planning 2024? It's been a crazy year. Thank you all so much. If you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, if you're listening on one of the many podcast platforms, please consider leaving a review. It helps us out a great deal in this world. Thanks for listening to Commercially Speaking. We will see you next year.